Dak.
Oh.
Dak Prescott football schedule, NFL schedule time. Look, you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. You make $60 million a year. It's always pressure on you. But this year, you're coming off the bad season, 7-10. All right? You got a nice receiving room. Nick likes to downplay it. No. It is a nice, CeeDee Lamb is great.
Yes.
And George Pickens is very good and greatly talented. All right, so you have to have a big season with these two receivers. A lot of quarterbacks would love to have those receivers. Now, Pickens is interesting because of his volatility or potential volatility. Greg broke it down yesterday. He's a guy that's not going to be as open as CD, but you said yourself he's more than a 50-50 guy. Throw him the rock. All right, even if he doesn't look like he's open, throw it to him. He'll come down with it more often than not. So that is on you. And then the schedule. We're talking about NFL because of the schedule. It's a rough one. It is a rough one. You start out with Philly, obviously. Yeah, we got Philly, Giants around, and then the Bears, and then the Packers. So the first 4 weeks, 3 of those games are losable. I think Nick thinks the Giants are pretty good. So you can't even take them lightly, obviously, as a division rival. So you got a tough start. But then weeks 12 through 17 is where it really gets tough. So you got to start off hot. Not like you did last year when you guys were healthy and you played poorly. Because at the end of the season, you got to rack up some victories. You got Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, the Chargers, and the Commanders, all of whom won 11 games or more last year. This is the first time, guys, in NFL history where a team has played 6 straight games against teams that all won at least 11 games the previous season. So it's going to be tough, Dak. Look, I like you, Dak. Good luck. All right.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Good luck, Dak. Yeah, the schedule is interesting. It's a tough schedule. I don't think anyone could take that away from them. You know, Eagles week 1, that's tough. Giants, listen, no matter what you think about who the Giants are, they should be better than they have been years past. Still divisional games. I know the Cowboys historically have been able to really dominate the Giants, especially earlier on in the season. But, you know, new season, divisional games, they can still get weird, you know. It's also in New York, so it's not at home. Or, no, excuse me, it's in Dallas. Okay. Now this is when the schedule gets a little bit interesting because you have the Bears and the Packers. Now, here's the reality. The reality is that the Dallas Cowboys are supposed to be consistently better than those teams. They're supposed to be consistently better than the Giants, the Bears, the Packers, the Jets, the Panthers, right? Now, the Commanders are different because we just welcomed Jaden Daniels into this party, so we can put that to a side. And the Eagles and the Cowboys have always just kind of gone back and forth with one another. But when you look at this stretch of, you know, weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6, it's like you're supposed to be better than those teams. And so, but it's interesting because just like Jaden Daniels was welcome to the party, you do have Jordan Love and Caleb Williams to the party, but at the same time, Dak Prescott is a $60 million quarterback. People do believe him to be a true top 5, maybe even higher quarterback, especially Cowboys fans. So it's like Jordan Love is supposed to be like a nice addition to the NFL world, but he's not supposed to be better than Dak. Neither is Caleb. I know a lot of people believe that Caleb is that generational talent, but there's also some people who are kind of like, no, he's not. So there you go. Again, Jaden Daniels, because of the year he has, I think he deserves all the respect in the world. But then you have a Bo Nix now in week 8, and it's supposed to be like, you know, again, if you're looking at this from the Dallas Cowboys perspective, you're like, Bo Nix isn't supposed to be better than Dak Prescott. Like, what are we talking about? And Kyler Murray, it's like, wake me up when he's done anything in the NFL over his entire career. Like, does he have some nice highlights? Absolutely. Has he been consistently great? Absolutely not. And, you know, for whatever reason, it doesn't even matter. Like, that's just the way how his career has unfolded. And then you're looking at the Raiders, and you're like, Geno Smith's supposed to be better than Dak? No. Again, Eagles, that's all. Both those games are just always going to be such toss-ups. Who even knows? And then, of course, you got the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings. But again, with Vikings with J.J. McCarthy is it's a different setup. Usually when we talk about these teams that have won 11-plus wins or whatever like that, usually you have some continuity. You don't have a brand new quarterback at the helm. So J.J. McCarthy will be the ultimate wild card throughout the entire NFL for every single team. I feel like he's probably the biggest question mark going into that season, because we saw what the Vikings were able to do last year, a game away from being the number 1 seed. And now you have a brand new quarterback who's a first-year starter. Like, you can't get much more of a question mark than that, quite frankly. And then the Chargers, I think they'll be good. The Commanders, again, back with Jaden Daniels. And then the Giants, and at this point, Week 18, who the heck even knows what that game even is, quite frankly. So it's an interesting thing, because I feel as though this schedule is actually balanced in the way that you will know truly who the Dallas Cowboys are, because you're playing some of these teams that are supposed to be behind the Dallas Cowboys: the Carolina Panthers, the New York Jets, the Cardinals, the Raiders, etc., and the Giants, of course. They're supposed to be behind. They're supposed to be behind the Dallas Cowboys. So how those games actually unfold will be fascinating. And then they're going to play teams that, sorry to say, Dallas Cowboys fans, but like, these teams are supposed to be better than you. The Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs. And then you have some teams that you're supposed to be like, well, we should be on par with them. The Commanders, again, it's hard with the Vikings because of JJ McCarthy, but some of these other more like teams where you're supposed to be like, hey, maybe we're not, because you can't say that you're the best team or the top team, and you can't say, oh, well, we're on par with the Eagles, because the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. As the season unfolds, you can say that, but I'm looking at this going into the season. I'm not necessarily trying, at least in this moment, and this is what's always tough with the schedule. Sometimes I like to do it where it's just like, okay, what are we thinking right now in May? And then what am I trying to predict? I'm trying to predict week 11. I think the Raiders will have a lot of momentum, and I think Geno Smith will be settled, and Ashton Genty. Like, I'm not trying to do that in this moment. I'm not trying to predict what will the Vikings necessarily look like in week 15 with JJ McCarthy. I'll save that for another time. So there's always multiple ways to kind of look at the schedule and try to predict how it will unfold. But if we're just really using last year as a reference point to guide us what this year will be, I think it's understandable to say, well, yeah, of course, a team like the Chiefs and the Eagles are above them, because those are the 2 Super Bowl teams, right? Like, you can't just automatically say, well, I'm on par with them. It's like, you might be, but we got to wait until like week 6, week 7, week 8 to start to have, like, to be able to make those statements. But yeah, I mean, I just think they don't seemingly have some teams, a stretch of teams where you just know they can feast on them, actually. And again, it's so interesting the way how the season's unfolding, because it's like, has Bryce Young, has he finally caught his stride? So now the Panthers aren't going to be an embarrassment. The Jets with Justin Fields, I don't have a ton of hope for them, but like, do they surprise people? Is Justin Fields settled? Is that defense really good? Like, it's a possibility. People are pretty high on the Cardinals this year with Kyler Murray. I'm definitely a wait and see at this point. I have zero predictions about what Kyler Murray ultimately will be in the NFL from a long-term perspective. So it's just like, I have no predictions. I do think that the Raiders will be good. Like, again, once upon a time you'd play the Raiders and it was with whoever the heck the coach is of the day and whoever the heck the quarterback is of the day. Like, those games would have once upon a time been games that you could feast. The New York Giants, is it a guy with the last name of Cutlets, or is it Jameis Winston? Is it Russell Wilson? Like, those are all wildly different games, quite frankly, depending on who the heck the quarterback is. And so even a game like the Giants that once upon a time would have been like an easy walk in the park, let's feast game, may not necessarily be that. But at the same time, a feast game could still be the Cardinals. It could. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. But what am I trying to say now? Essentially, some of the feast games that they could have had are no longer really necessarily seemingly there, and any of these feast games that are potentially there, it's like, I believe that they'll be better, but at the same time, I'm still open to the door that things are just not what I thought that they were going to be, like the Raiders, like the Vikings, and maybe even like the Bears. Like, I think the Bears are going to be really good, Caleb Williams, but I'm opening to I still have the door open to just Caleb being a terrible quarterback and being a bust, and Ben Johnson being overwhelmed as a head coach. Again, I'm not predicting that, but like, I'm still open to that being the case, or them just getting a slow start week 3, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, I think at the very least, I think here's the thing. This is ultimately what I could say about this Dallas Cowboys schedule and this team. If they make the playoffs and they win, they have a good season. Again, I don't even mean that they have to get to the NFC Championship game. But if they just make the playoffs with a schedule like this, I think that would be very, very impressive. Outside of a handful of these teams, like just being so much more of disasters than people predicted, like there's some people believing that the Chiefs are going to be awful, that they're going to win 7-8 games, right? The Cowboys just absolutely, the Eagles absolutely collapsed because of, they've lost too many great players. Their OC hire was a mistake. Jalen Hurts just got lucky winning the Super Bowl. JJ McCarthy and the Vikings, absolute disaster. JJ's not ready for this, and he's so overwhelmed. The Lions, they lost both their coordinators. They're collapsing like the Eagles did in 2023. Like, outside of these like very specific circumstances, if all of these teams are still pretty darn good and still top teams in the NFL, and you have this schedule, then I think them just making the playoffs would be, from my viewpoint, would actually be pretty impressive. Actually, I really, really do believe that. But again, my expectations for the Cowboys is not super high. I do not believe that they're a true Super Bowl contender. Quite frankly, I think they have zero chance at that, the way how they constantly construct their teams and having Dak Prescott and the coaching staff that they have. That's just, I just, I just don't think that Dak is going to randomly change who he is as a quarterback. I think we'll get a lot of the same stuff in that regard. And going into the schedule release, I kept saying I believe that they're going to feast on the bad teams, play kind of good against the good teams, and then be overmatched against the great teams. And when I'm looking at this schedule, I'm just kind of like, realizing, where are the feasts coming from? And all of the teams really feel like they're good/great. Like they're like there is no kind of just mediocre or just kind of average where I'm like, okay, this will be an interesting game to see where this lands. Like, going up against the Eagles twice is obviously what you always do, but still, the Eagles reigning Super Bowl champions. You have the Chiefs, the Lions, like I don't know. The Broncos, like the Commanders now, like the Commanders are a legit team. The Eagles are obviously a legit team. I think the Broncos are a legit team. Even with missing both their coordinators, I think the Lions are still going to be a tough team. Same thing with the Vikings, even with a rookie, first year starter. Like, I don't know. Like it's a tough one. I'm looking at this in real time in the order, and I'm just like really trying to think of how the Cowboys, have been able to get by over the years. And it's just like, you really do need those big wins against the Panthers, against the Jets, against the Raiders, against the Cardinals, and the Giants, 2-0 against the Giants, because there's a great chance you split, you maybe split, maybe go 2-2, maybe go 1-3 against the Eagles and the Commanders. Combined. I think probably best case scenario for them is splitting. You win at least 2 of those games, no matter where it comes from. And then going 2-0 against the Giants. But again, I don't know if even going 2-0 against the Giants is a guarantee anymore, quite frankly. Just because of what their quarterback room looks like now. And I do think Russell Wilson could have some legit success with Brian Daboll. And I did like their draft. So, yeah. Interesting. But yeah, the last point I'll say is that is the thing. When people talk about Dak being that great, that special, well, then he leads his team to the playoffs, right? Heavy is the crown that wears the head. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Whatever the heck I said before. We'll just ignore that. I know because when I was queuing this up, I heard him kind of talk about Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow under duress. And it's like, it's so interesting because nobody gave Joe Burrow an excuse for not making the playoffs. I excused Joe Burrow because that defense was absolutely awful. And Joe Burrow couldn't play any better. I mean, he truly couldn't play any better. And I'm going to talk about that in my take for when Brew puts him under duress. And that's where I'll kind of just say that with Dak, though, Dak could be better, clearly be better. So I do put that responsibility so much more on him then. But at the same time, I only think he's so great. So it's like, I can't expect a good quarterback to be an elite quarterback. So it always becomes a little messy. So I don't know. The schedule releases is always tough, honestly, because we're asked to try to figure this stuff out, and it's like, I don't know what the Cardinals are going to look like in week 9. I have no idea what the Chargers are going to look like in week 16. The Philadelphia Eagles, week 1, like that's actually a question mark because it's week 1. Week 1, anything can happen. Literally anything can happen. So it's just, it's a schedule. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Dallas Cowboys schedule release and Dak Prescott under duress and having this be a historical schedule where it's the first time they've had to face all these teams in a row that won 11 games or more the year before? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.